Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Patriots Perspective. I have with me today Penny L.A. Shepherd. My name is Christi Tasker, and I'm your host of PatriotsPerspective.com. Penny is your co-host, and we have got the guest of all guests today. We cannot wait for you to meet a special guest that I have met in person. Yes, he is real. His name is Justin Leslie. He is the Pfizer whistleblower. Penny, have you heard of this guy?
Not until today, but I was looking at Markets Insider, and the headline is Groundbreaking Documentary, Project Whistleblower Pulls Back the Curtain on Corporate Misconduct. Discover the inspiring story of Justin Leslie, a 27-year-old defender who fearlessly challenges industry norms and exposes hidden truths in the documentary Project Whistleblower. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Oh, I just cannot even wait to tell you, because I have met Justin in person. He is a real. We did a sting operation together for James O'Keefe at OMG after he switched over. We're going to tell you all about that when we come back.
Live from Miami, Florida, broadcasting around the world. You're listening to Patriots Perspective with Christi Tasker. Your news behind the government's facade. Don't fall victim to propaganda or spend another 30 days in the tech gulag. Turn off your tell-lie vision and just listen. Hear the most mind-opening hours of your life as we interview whistleblowers and real patriots for uncensored truth. The Commie News Network and Fake Book cannot control the power of Jesus Christ. Therefore, they have no power over us. There aren't enough Vegas strippers to fake check what's coming. Put in your earphones and avoid the tech tyrants. Subscribe to PatriotsPerspective.com now and see the evidence and action items to help you take back your God-given rights, government, and expose Satan and his demons taking up residence in your community. Be sure to hit the like or rumble button and comment to tell us where you're holding the line.
There we go. And we are going to not waste any time and bring Justin right on in. Justin, welcome to Patriots Perspective. I think the last time you were in Miami, we were doing a little sting operation, but here you are on the internet in Miami and don't even know it. Welcome.
Hey, Christi, Penny, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate you taking the time to go through an interview with me, keeping it around an hour, right? Short and sweet for the audience and going through the story. So without further ado, I'll just let the conversation flow.
Yep. So Justin, first of all, I want everybody to know how we met. We first met because there was a circulation going around. Somebody had contacted me. As a matter of fact, there was like an outreach for anybody who wanted to help James O'Keefe come up and interview a lot of the scientists, but go undercover to interview them. And I thought, well, listen, there's no better way for me to find out the truth from the scientists directly, the doctors who are in charge of these NIH studies, than to go myself. So I thought it's very easy for me to belly up at the bar, get a sparkling water, pretend like I'm drinking, make these people feel very comfortable, and with an undercover video camera. And there you were, to be the person that actually led the charge on that as well, on South Beach, where we happened to gain some footage regarding Dr. Fraudchi that actually went viral on O'Keefe Media Group channel. So, I wanted people to know that you are a real person. You do actually do real work, and you actually led the charge for some great things for James. And one of the things I remember and coming to meet you as being like, oh my gosh, I felt like I was like working with a kid, but you're very smart. You're very intelligent, very concerned. I remember you may want to tell about, being concerned about me. And I'm like, no, go away. I'm not going to be able to get anything if you're here, but you were a very lovely guy.
Thank you, Christi. Yeah, so that investigation was actually supposed to be centered around, in Project Whistleblower, I talk about Kim Witczak and her whistleblower story. So I had flown out to Minneapolis several months prior to meet with Kim, to talk to her about her husband's story, Woody, who he had actually committed a suicide from taking an SSRI, Zoloft. And so Kim became this accidental advocate and got onto the FDA committee board for psychotropic drugs. And she's been an advocate forever, since that 2003, I think the whole situation with her husband was. And it's really heartbreaking story. I cried a little bit over dinner with her. So she sent me all these documents, but James and the lead journalists that I was working with didn't think that her testimony was really worth a story or worth an interview. So they sent me, being her journalist source handler, to fly to Miami to this conference and with the NIH people. And there were subjects there that were part of the reason why Kim was actually taken off of this committee vote for the Pfizer drug, the smoking cessation drug. It's not Zoloft off the top of my head, Chantix. So Chantix in 2016, 2017 had a black box warning vote that Kim was supposed to be on, and she was taken off. And then consequently, from her being taken off and not being able to present the data on the board, she still flew to this meeting and tried to present it, but it wasn't it wasn't what it was supposed to be. She didn't get a vote. So long story short about Kim is I flew to Miami, met up with you, met up with other citizen journalists, and we could talk about that because Christi, you had this knack of just knowing what to do with the camera. And I actually, we can laugh about it now, but I screwed up giving you your equipment on the second day when you actually got you got interesting sound bites and the audio was off. And it was just, I was the only OMG journalist working there, and I was just super stressed out. We were working, like, there was a 19-year-old, a 21-year-old, and then some other dude, and then you and your friend. And I was overwhelmed because I was working with like 4 citizen journalists, and I would call you and your friend the only citizen journalists. The other younger folks really had no idea what they were doing or like why they were even there. And it having too many hands or too many pots like of people just at this conference was almost too much to deal with for me since I was alone. And I was also trying to get a story myself, like identify these subjects that had to do with Kim's story, and the whole thing really fell apart. Like we got the Fauci story with you, which was great, but to me, it's all kind of part of the narrative, even that the alternative media uses, in the sense that they want to take Fauci and make him this fall guy, blame Fauci for everything, which obviously the man is super sinister, like, and but he's a puppet. There's people behind him that, that we don't exactly see. Right. But he's going to become the fall guy, and already really has in the right wing alternative media per se. So,
one of the interesting things regarding, that story, because, I know, you were there and you were really doing everything, you were kind of equipping everybody with the equipment, kind of trying to brief everybody. And then I felt like you were really concerned about the whistleblowers that were there, just in case, you were trying to keep an eye on everybody, just in case, not because you were concerned about, like whether we were going to like run off with equipment, but you were concerned that we might get hurt or the cover might be blown. Yeah, he was very concerned. And I remember him being, I was like, I'd be like, Justin, I'd go by him, get away, like, just get away. Don't get too close, because, I didn't want everybody to see that, we were, kind of working the room
right,
as a whole. And then one of the really interesting things that, I would love to have had the footage that we obtained, because I was asking all the other scientists, were they aware that Dr. Fraudche's wife actually was over the NIH? And none of the scientists knew that his wife was over the NIH. So,
wow.
Yeah, so not a single one of them. And about 95%, there was actually only one man that had worked with Dr. Fraudche for 30 years that actually still liked him. The rest of them did not like him at all. They thought he was a fraud. And that's actually what James did release was, the part where the other scientists did confirm that he was a fraud and stuff like that. So, and then the part that Justin's talking about, there's times where, like on day 2, I was talking to this dad who had pretty much put his child in a test or in a study. Sorry, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's for like transgender stuff you were talking about, right?
Yes,
like DEI.
yes.
I don't think they went and got bottom surgery at that point, but from what you were telling me, just by word of mouth, because I screwed up with the phone camera you had was muted. Unfortunately,
right.
I had given, if I had given you the other
and
one with the 19-year-old,
I didn't take the voice, and I didn't do the backup. So we lost this part.
It's whatever.
Yeah. So it's lost, but the reality is this dad pretty much confirmed that he put he's a scientist himself, put his own child in a study so that he would have basically a lab rat to use. I mean, and I was like shocked hearing him say this, and to the point where I just like grandma schooled this like man. He was a head taller than me, believe it or not. I'm 6 feet tall, so he's about 6'7", 6'8". And he's literally like just telling me how he's like utilized his kid. And I'm just like sitting there going, are you crazy? Like you're a dad. You're supposed to be protecting this young lady. And I thought he would like run away from me at this point in time, but he didn't. But that's the footage that we lost. So, anyway.
You win some, you lose some. That's why they say, they said, you got to have, I guess, 2 in the chamber just in case, with the backup audio situation. If you accidentally have your audio off or something happens in your pocket and it turns itself off, you have the backup running.
And I reached out to you, and at first I was like, Justin, like I had audio taken, and he's like, yeah, that was me. That was my situation. Like I was the one, that was my fault. And I'm like, okay, well, as long as it's your fault, like it wasn't, I thought maybe James had like hidden that audio or that footage or whatever too. So Justin was able to confirm.
No, it was simply an honest mistake that, it was too hectic for me, I guess, to deal with like the 4 or 5 of you guys as citizen journalists focusing on the story I was trying to get simultaneously. And so it was a lot that I was dealing with, as well as, keeping the Pfizer scientist story sucked down into my stomach for 2+ years too, so
that's a lot.
I would have loved to talk to you about that. I would have loved to talk to you about that. I could tell how tapped in to everything that you were, just being an investigative journalist, Christi, and all the, I don't want to call it activism, but if you call it activism, but whatever, your work in politics, etc. I could tell that you got a good head on your shoulders, and I wanted to express to you my actual truth, but everything works out, and now we're chatting here.
Here we are. That's right. And let's actually talk about your story. So, because at the time I had no idea that you were the Pfizer whistleblower, because the story had not come out. You're having to like keep it all bottled up, which I imagine would be extremely hard, because a lot of people don't understand keeping these things bottled up is, especially when you're dealing with the crimes against humanity, is extremely hard to keep bottled up, especially, but you can do it if you're thinking that you have a support group that's going to, be like a conduit and a megaphone to help you get that message out. Because, if you just put it out, you might have 30,000 people watch. But if you've got somebody like James O'Keefe who is willing to put it out, then there's a great chance that the message is going to go further. So, I wanted to say that, regarding people, because, a lot of people have asked me, like, why did you bother to do this, under OMG? And even James himself encouraged people to, do their own citizen journalism. But the reality is a lot of people either don't know how to do it. They're afraid to do it. And they don't have the platform already built. I mean, because I had even said to you guys, like, hey, can't you just share some of the other stories? It's not his policy. He has to like do the journalism himself, making sure that it actually exists. So I would say that, that's an interesting thing that I think people don't realize, like behind the scenes. And, but when it comes to your story, I do have some thoughts on it, like of where they made some really big mistakes that I agree with you 100%. So let's get into your story. Just brief the audience on it. Tell us about your documentary, because I have watched this documentary and it is amazing. So I don't want to play every clip with the documentary. That's not the goal of this podcast. But we are going to talk about some specific things and where I believe James O'Keefe went wrong, and the mistakes that were made, and were they intentional or not, who really knows?
Yeah, those questions will probably remain unanswered because James acts like I don't exist. But make it, he acts like I don't exist anymore, essentially.
That's interesting. I have a whistleblower that was on our show for almost a year, and he is now currently in jail.
Wow.
Well,
that's another story for another day. I'll talk to you.
So my background comes from a pharmaceutical biomedical science background. I got educated at University of Rhode Island, went for undergrad 4 years there, and I was in the middle of a master's program at the height of COVID. I couldn't find a job out of school during like the beginning of the scamdemic, and then I applied after my first semester of my master's program to about 4 pharma companies, and a contracting organization called Mindlance Incorporated called me with an opportunity for Pfizer. So I was a contractor for Pfizer. I went through 2 interviews, just 2 phone interviews, and got hired as a formulation analytical scientist. I was given this job offer. I took 23 hours basically to accept it because I was at such a crossroads in my life of like, am I going to go work for the beast? Am I going to go work for the evil guys? Right. And I said yes, under the condition that I essentially don't stay on the sidelines, and do something, right? Be brave, do something is what Project Veritas's motto is. And so that's why I end up reaching out to them. And I had reached out to PV actually before even taking this role. I said, hey, by the way, I'm this, young guy, I got this job at Pfizer in Massachusetts. Let me know if you guys want to work together to expose the corruption behind the vaccine agenda. And they said, Justin, we can't tell you what to do. If you find anything newsworthy, if you take the job, please reach out to us and we're happy to work with you. So I just took it under, I wanted to go see what working on this mRNA platform for the COVID-19 vaccine was like. So I was in a small scale manufacturing lab, where if in pharmaceuticals, there's small scale and then there's large scale. Small scale is more for research and development and stability study purposes, just to make sure that you can scale up essentially. So I was in a small scale lab and I was doing research and development studies for the fabrication and clean team, like small scale manufacturing teams, where they were just handing off vaccine research samples, stability samples, where I would go in these minus 80 degrees Celsius freezers, which I think is ridiculous that they had drug product in these freezers, but that's another conversation. But essentially, are
you saying that because that's not the correct way to handle the material? Is that what you're saying?
Well, there's just my expertise in dealing with minus 80 degrees Celsius freezers isn't that high. This was my first role ever, and throughout undergrad and through my master's program, I had never come across drug products being frozen at like minus 80 degrees Celsius being a commonality. And so I just thought it was ridiculous that they were using this frozen product for something that was going into billions of people on a worldwide scale. So, people argue that there's like the water parasites and, hydra vulgaris, or this drug delivery system, which ultimately I really align with my hypothesis of what these vaccines are as a drug delivery system that is essentially tricking the body and causing these blood clots. So I don't need to ramble or anything, but my documentary that I put together is called Project Whistleblower, and the audience can find it at justintegrity.net. So I went from
like just your name, right? JUS.
That's brilliant.
It's a play off my name. I came up with it one day, and my friend loved it, and I didn't fall in love with it right away, but it's it keeps me on my integral path now too. I got just integrity, right? So I was a formulation analytical scientist at Pfizer, and I was working with Project Veritas for 3 months, from October through December of 2021. At this point in time, yes, a lot of people were like double jabbed or even boosted, but there were childhood vaccine emergency use authorization approvals that I had a hand in potentially stopping or putting to a hold, as well as mandates. Christy, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Melissa McAtee, but she had a Pfizer whistleblower story through Project Veritas as well.
Yes.
And her story did impact mandates like countrywide, actually. So I can only imagine the impact that my story combined with her story would have had on it would have been a massive critical mass, ultra critical mass scale. And if my story followed up with hers like 3 or 4 weeks after. But so I was offered a job opportunity to work for Project Veritas by James O'Keefe December 1st, 2023, because of their, I went, very hard in the sense of what I was doing. I was obtaining information after they gave me undercover recording equipment. And I went into Project Veritas essentially every day, or not Project Veritas, Pfizer, every day, looking to get sound bites from my colleagues, especially the higher up colleagues. So principal scientists, director level people, and vice president level executive levels.
Well, and you said earlier that they hired you off of 2 interviews, online interviews.
Pfizer, yes.
Okay, so tell about those interviews. Tell about the interview process, because I think this is something that maybe people don't realize how easily people were hired. Because this is in your it's part of this, like the documentary shows a lot of these like foreigners working, and being a business owner, I'm looking at it going, wow, like there's no way I've hired people, for a marketing role with my companies off of 2 little interviews, and like, especially going to show up and you're going to like no background check. Tell us a little bit about that. Did they go through the interview process? Because I thought that was really interesting.
It's simply just 2 phone interviews that were 30 minutes long for me.
Oh, not even Zoom. Not Zoom interviews?
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
It was really simple, and they offered me that job through the contracting company. They didn't even know what I looked like, which might have actually been a disadvantage if they saw who I was, because I come across as a little more masculine and etc. Maybe they don't want this big macho guy who's a scientist. The context behind my colleagues is I worked like there was the lower level employees, like me being in the middle of a master's program, and some of my colleagues had either master's degrees or just straight up bachelor's, and that's it. And they were working at Pfizer for only a year or two. Most of my colleagues were either 25, 26, 27, 28. There was a group of young guns, and then Conwall Gill, the Indian lady who we can go over footage, as well as Ramin. They're in Conwall's probably in her 40s, or I don't know the exact age, but they're more middle-aged. So I think that what Pfizer in the hiring process, with what you're touching on, Christy, is they take the Indian population, or maybe Asian population, and they outsource to that group of people versus people that are born in the United States, or have ties to the United States, in the sense that they are it's less tunnel vision, I think, when you're born here. Like I didn't have the tunnel vision. I was looking out for humanity, in the sense of being really risk averse, where these people, they were like, Commonwealth says, roll it out, roll it out, roll it out. It's not a time to think, it's a time to act. And we're just going to release this vaccine in record time. So, did you want me to touch on her footage?
Yeah, I would
Yes.
like you to touch on her footage, and then I just want the audience to think logically. Like I'm a big on like just thinking very logically. Like if this were your business, would you actually and knowing the ramifications that vaccines can have, and knowing that these vaccines are going into the entire population. There's no background check. You're taking somebody directly out of college that needs a job, number one. Number two, you're taking people directly out of third world countries that they're just happy to have food. I mean, they're happy to, be in America in general. And so I just think that's extremely sad that I feel like that's abuse in itself. I mean, so I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but as a business owner and as a mom and a grandma and an aunt, I'm just like appalled that they would think that this is okay.
Yeah, they rolled this thing out way too quickly. And I mean, all vaccines aren't safe or effective because, like I point out in my documentary, that virology itself should be questioned by every single person on this earth as a pseudoscience I like to point to the work of Christine Massey, who's a Canadian researcher out of Canada, where she's filed over 220 FOIA requests to like the World Health Organization, the CDC, World Health I don't know the names of the Canadian health agencies, but all over the world is where, she's touched on to over 220 countries with these Freedom of Information Act requests for the purification, isolation of SARS-CoV-2, as well as other viruses. And it's taken, that none of these organizations have actually provided her evidence of a research paper saying, here, we've followed the scientific method in the purification, isolation of this virus. And to me, it's really mind-blowing and baffling to me that the governments around the world, the media around the world, they pushed this narrative about SARS-CoV-2 killing you, killing your grandma. You need to take the vaccine, otherwise grandma's going to die. Without actual proof or evidence that SARS-CoV-2 or any other virus has actually been proven to exist. Like, that is a terrifying and traumatizing statement, but that is the information that I am presenting. And I'm not the only person to speak on this either. There are thousands of medical doctors who have walked away from the whole industry because of this. So I'm not alone, and I'm not the only person to be saying this. I'm just, I'm a young guy from Pfizer who has come across this truth. And so I feel, the need to shout from mountaintops about this issue. I feel it's the most important thing that we really can be talking about. So, did you guys want to touch on the Commonwealth footage? I think it's the second clip.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and play the footage. Roll the footage.
I think it's the second one.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Let's add it to the stage.
This clip was from October 21st, 2021. Just listen to what he has to say about the safety issues of the vaccine.
My mother called me 2 days ago and said that her therapist's friend told her that her friend took a booster shot and died like the same day, I think, in her bathroom. I don't know if it was Pfizer, but like...
The only booster shot so far is in Pfizer.
So, I mean, well, it must have been Pfizer. And I'm just like concerned that, like, I mean, she was relatively old. She was 77 apparently. But I mean, it's kind of scary to me.
Well, that's the thing. Just people die every day.
I think it's something that we should look into and make sure that the boosters are
looking into it.
Yeah.
It's just not our job to look into that.
Yeah.
But there are people within Pfizer, all the political people.
Okay.
And the safety people.
Right.
There are.
I have to pause this. I mean, it's not our job to look into that. I mean, everything is not somebody else's job. I mean, like it's almost like this is insanity that we're living in.
It's a global human. Go ahead.
There are reports that come to Pfizer, zillions of them every day.
Zillions.
Oh yeah.
Do you think Pfizer gets mad when they don't mandate it?
From a business perspective,
Yeah.
it's just like saying you think the chip
Okay, so I just want to bring to everybody's attention from a business perspective. So as a business consultant, I get really aggravated when I go on to any type of government, anything, and I refer to them as a business. They are a corporation masquerading as a government, just like Pfizer is a business masquerading as a health organization pretending to help people.
Chips companies, they're going to get mad if somebody says chips is not good for you? Of course.
Probably.
Yeah,
But I mean,
they don't care if people just eat chips all day and die, because their job is
to sell chips.
Wow.
engineering it the way that I take. No, it's not even selling it. It's for me to take it, basically, right? Because otherwise I won't buy it.
Right.
Yeah, so you
I
forget
see.
about those parts of business, basically. So
Yeah.
they're engineering it specifically for me to take the next one.
Right.
So increasing my consumption and increasing my consumption, guess what? It's going to affect my heart and I'm going to die.
Wow.
And nobody's talking about that.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah. So that was Ramin Davari. He's actually in the next clip. It's Conwell Gill, the woman we were just talking about. Ramin is Conwell's boss, essentially. He's like a head honcho on the formulations behind right at the beginning with this entire vaccine rollout with using mRNA technology. Ramin has had his hands on this mRNA technology from the beginning when Pfizer and BioNTech were working on this mRNA technology starting in like 2018. So this guy has been hands-on with this platform for, at this point in this conversation, at least 2 years, more likely closer to 3. So to not have the concern, even if you're not in clinical, I understand if you're not an expert in clinical, that's fine. It's
Can you
just
explain, Justin, what clinical is? Because I mean, I know, but the audience doesn't know. And I didn't even know until you were kind of, till I had interviewed some of the NIH scientists, what
Absolutely.
clinical is, what, like explain the differences in silos. Because, some of those scientists did explain it to me, like, oh, what clinical is. So how they separate themselves in
For
their
sure.
minds of how they get by with this.
So my part of the industry was in pharmaceutical research and development at Pfizer. There's also clinical trials where the drug product itself is going into humans or in animals. They got to do animal clinical trials before they even put this thing in humans, which they weren't doing because of this emergency.
Right.
But that's what he was referring to. He's like, oh, it's the clinical people's job to worry about the people dying from the booster shot and not us, even though we're working directly on this product, like hands-on every single day. And I was paying attention to the alternative media circles outside of mainstream. All these people watch CNN straight up and MSNBC and maybe a little bit of Fox, where everybody else, or not everybody else, where me, I'm paying attention to what's going on Alex Jones or whoever else, and I mean, is Alex Jones even trustworthy? I'm not sure, but that's a different conversation. It's the fact that it's the fact that they were at least talking about it and bringing some concern to it. So it's mind-blowing to me that he literally came up with an analogy for a chip company manufacturer. And I don't mean microchips. I meant he wasn't referring to microchips. He was referring to potato chips in the sense that, if Lay's is told, if Pfizer and Lay's are the same, and Lay's gets mad that you say, oh, don't eat chips, well, Pfizer's going to get mad at people saying, oh, don't take your booster shot. Don't do this, don't do that. And I'm engineering this product to make sure that you keep on taking it. That is ridiculous. And then he goes, it's going to affect your heart and I'm going to die. That's a nail in the coffin to me. I know it's literally not directly referring to Pfizer, but he uses a metaphor to refer to Pfizer. And it is so subliminal and it's so perfect for the situation. And he said zillions of adverse events. I wish he said millions or billions, but I mean, he was deflecting in that situation, meaning he didn't want to talk about it. And so he just said zillions. And it's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I can tell you this regarding the first one. My own mother-in-law took a booster. I think it was their second booster, and within days, she could not even pull a blanket up over her legs. Was almost freezing, and did end up passing away like days later. So
It's horrible.
yeah,
And that was a real world situation I gave him too. You know, someone connected, you know, my mom's friend's like mom or aunt essentially took a booster and died. Boom. Same day.
Yep. Yep.
So
you can't even make that up. Okay, so let's play the next
Amin
clip.
Davari,
Oh,
a pharmaceutical
that's the same one.
formulation scientist from Pfizer.
Oh, this is the same one?
That's the same one. Hop
Okay.
to the next one. It says the things you never saw, part 2.
Okay, hang on. Let's see. Can you pull it up in your tab? I think you have to switch. Look on the top of your tab. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it. Okay, and then just I removed Justin. I didn't mean to do that. Uh-oh. Sorry, Justin.
Sorry, Justin. Just in time. You need
Sorry, Justin. Come back in, Justin.
He's back.
Okay. I'm like, Justin, come back, Justin. I didn't
Just remove the videos.
It's all good. You're taking the guest out too. I
was trying to just remove your screen off.
No, it's all good. I get it. It's because I screwed up that story.
No, it's okay. Listen, I have no hard feelings against you, Justin.
No, I know.
We came back in just in time.
Okay.
Listen, I do wish we could get that. I do wish we could get that back, but we're not.
Here's the other one that we can. Yep.
This video here is from October 6th, 2021. I had a meeting with my manager, Conwell Gill, a principal scientist working on the vaccine formulation at Pfizer. In this meeting, I asked her if it was okay to...
For everyone who can't see, he shows her LinkedIn page showing that she is a principal, right? A principal scientist at Pfizer. Okay? Just want to make sure everybody's got that.
The vaccine formulation at Pfizer. In this meeting, I asked her if it was okay to give people another experimental injection regarding the booster shots, or if it was a drive for money.
So are we?
But we are still.
Do we know that? Just thinking ethically, is it okay to give people another experimental injection? Are we sure it's going to be safe and effective? Or are we just rolling these out because we want to roll them out for money?
Yeah. This is a real-time data that we are generating. We don't even know. When we started vaccinating people, we had no idea how it's going to look like. Yeah. mRNA vaccines have been there for 50 years, but nothing made to clinical. Why? Because mRNA vaccines have been known to have side effects.
Right. But
Moderna has been working on it for 10 years. This is not the new thing. Right? But why it did not reach trial was because of all these side effects. We, Pfizer and Moderna, used the emergency and the pandemic to kind of get through it now.
Okay.
But, we didn't, but even CDC noted we don't have
data. So it can
data.
never get FDA approved until we had this emergency, right? We had to try something new. So, but why didn't we try a vaccine formulation that has been effective in the past, with egg yolk or something that they use with flu, right? I don't know.
Yeah, so we here did not do it because we already have collaboration with BioNTech on flu before actually COVID happened. So mRNA, what the story behind we starting on this, because BioNTech guy, Sahim, the BioNTech CEO, he called Catherine Jensen.
Sahim?
Yeah, he called Catherine Jensen and he's like, hey, I have this technology, but I don't have resources to make it big. So Catherine was like, well, we had a collaboration in place before for flu. So we wanted to give it a shot. It is a new mRNA thing. Nobody knew anything about it. We never had this. Everything is just fresh from last year.
Learning on the fly.
So it was on the fly. Pandemic, just roll it out. There was no time to think. It was a time to act.
Wow.
Who Conwell was mentioning in this clip is Catherine Jensen, the former head of vaccine research and development at Pfizer.
I'm Catherine Jansen. I develop vaccines which help millions of people around the world to be protected from nasty and deadly infections. Currently, I'm developing a vaccine candidate to help prevent COVID-19.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, and you know
Imagine
what I want to
sitting
do?
there.
I can't even imagine. Tell us what it did feel like when you were sitting there having to listen to this.
I remember this conversation and I play it back in my head every day. And I will, go on record saying that I don't think Conwall is like, I don't think she has like a criminal mindset. Literally, like she wasn't like, oh, like I know that this is killing people. Let's put it in more people's arms. I'm not saying that. I believe that she believes she was doing the right thing with all of this, but she's also facing that cognitive dissonance of absolutely, being bribed essentially with money, with her salary to keep your mouth shut. You're working on a drug product that's getting brought to market. How often does a drug product that you're doing research and development on get put to market?
Right.
So that's another thing that was going around is like Bakul Bhatangar is one of the head formulation scientists who is working on pediatric formulation. He was like, this is a blessing. Like, we have such a great opportunity. Like, this is so important what we're doing. People work on drug and research and development for 20 years and never see a drug ever brought to market. And we, have this opportunity where we worked on this thing with BioNTech for 2 years and we're able to put it out now. So sitting there going through this with this woman, I wasn't like shitting my, what or anything, but I was really just concerned, like she's expressing these concerns. She could see that I was somewhat concerned, but I was like walking on eggshells every single day at Pfizer because I felt that I was like the only one on my team who was even willing to bring any of these difficult questions up. And so, I mean, having this conversation with this woman was extremely difficult. And there, I don't have the clip on hand and we don't have to go over it. But in the documentary, it's also outlined how I explain how is the booster really a drive for money. And at the end of this entire conversation, Conwall goes, and yeah, I suppose it's turning into a money game essentially with all of these mRNA projects going out because of this emergency use authorization that they essentially are taking advantage of. But then she goes, yeah, it's turning into a money game, puts the mask over her face, and then says, but we work for this company, so like it's our job to do this. It's like that's the right thing to do is bow down to Pfizer essentially, and that's it. So I look back. Yep.
Was anyone concerned when they were seeing the deaths and all? Was anyone concerned at all that you work with? Did anybody when they saw that it was coming forward in the mainstream, it was actually in the mainstream. Did anyone, by the way, Google was responsible for one of these researches, which is why everybody got kicked off of YouTube because Google and YouTube are working together.
So I resigned in April 2022 because I went to go work for Project Veritas. I don't think it was mainstream at that point in time that people were actually dying from the vaccines. So I don't think I can accurately answer that question. But from my experience on the inside, no one was questioning people dying, really. Or maybe everyone in the back of their heads maybe felt like something was up, but no one had the balls to speak out.
And if they did, one of the things, Justin, that, I've told people, because they're like, well, how do you, when you're going undercover and you're doing what you're doing, you feel like you're doing the only thing that you can do, which is to make it so that people, are, you are making them aware. And at the same time, it's also a situation where, a lot of people have asked me, like in the footage that we got for OMG was, were you afraid about the doctors coming forth? The reality is, I believe that some of the people maybe, and I'm curious if you've heard from this lady or anybody at Pfizer, because sometimes I think they're actually happy that somebody is getting the information out. How do you feel about that statement?
I haven't heard directly from Conwall or Ramin or Nick Warren, who we can chat about him after this sentence. But
Do they have a way to contact you?
yeah, Conwall has my phone number. She can call me anytime.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things people have asked. So the whistleblowers that I have contact with, or that we even, we were even undercover with, they have my direct phone number. They even know my name. So they've never reached out, because some of the people want the information out. And so I think a lot of times that is the reason, Penny, that they don't ask, are you undercover? Because if they ask and they find out, then they would not, number one, you're not going to be able to tell them, but at the same time, they're going to not release as much information, because then Pfizer would turn around, whoever they're working for would turn around and go, oh, well, you still continue to have the conversations with him, even though you thought he was a journalist.
Yes,
Yep.
well, it's still being suppressed by the mainstream, but we had a contingency of alternative, which were pushing it into the mainstream because the mainstream was denying it and saying that this didn't exist. And then you had your whole alternative industry, which now starts researching it. Like we have Dr. Artis on our show, and he has a different perspective on it as to what's actually involved within the vaccines. So do you think that any of these people, in retrospect, now that it's coming out more and more forward, and the mainstream is still denying it, do you think that in retrospect that any of these individuals have, any conscience as to it? Or do you think the individual that you interviewed still feels the same way?
I feel that some of these people may be waking up on the inside, especially after me coming out. I can say that someone has reached out to me through DMs and essentially said, hey, I have two friends that were working at the same Andover campus as you. I never met these guys, but they said that they knew that it was a kill shot too. And they apparently call Albert Bourla a reptilian like puppet, so maybe we're more like-minded than we know with the colleagues that I had. But my direct colleagues, I was saying earlier, I was walking on eggshells at work. I thought I was the wolf in sheep's clothing, or the black sheep, essentially. I was the only one who was different. But there were I got some people to reach out to me, actually, that I did work directly with. I'll leave them nameless, but one of them was like, "Oh, yep, they were totally using us. I would have loved to have been interviewed by you, I guess, so maybe she would have vented on how the whole thing was a fraud." And then another one reached out, basically just saying, "Best of luck, and I hope they don't sue you." So we'll
Right.
see.
So no one was angry, is the point. Like, they're not angry. They're not, so, and that's
is the
I
vice
have
president.
I have another question for you, Justin. Sorry, my dog, I had to let her in and out. Are you worried, because we host a lot of whistleblowers and they end up targeted, gang stalked, kicked out of the workforce, and some of them end up dead? Were you worried that any of those things would happen to you?
I don't like to dwell and live in fear, so no. But I know that I'm dealing with a government cartel mafia, essentially, that is evil. We're fighting an evil force right now, and it's a spiritual war. So I don't want to live in fear, but I acknowledge that they could send military men to my house and just off me if they wanted to.
Yes.
But I'm not gonna, knock on wood, but I'm not
Yes,
putting
but
that out there.
aside from that, because every whistleblower, I'm a whistleblower as well, every whistleblower knows the chances that they take, but because they believe in truth and integrity and God, they go forward and they say what they have to say.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, the truth is more important than anything else. And when we're talking about the documentaries, just so you guys know, you can go to rumble.com/C/Justin Leslie. So this is Justin's actual channel. Justin, this is your only channel, correct? I mean, I just want to make sure
Yep.
that when they're watching it, they go to your channel to watch it, because that makes a big difference too, because there's a lot of other posers out there that are also sometimes trying to pretend to be other, that are trying to pretend to be you.
Yeah, I noticed that actually. There's an
Yeah.
account or two, I think, that's trying to, essentially be a mock version of me, and I don't know how they
Yeah.
would make money off of it. They'll get less views just because they're copying my videos, but it is what it is.
And also, I wanted people to know that they can watch it in Spanish. You got it converted into Spanish, which is great.
Yep.
I'm very appreciative.
Very nice.
Shout out to my friend Dr. Ana Maria Oliva. She's down in Mexico with Adam Bigelson, and they're super cool people. They're super tapped in. I've met Adam actually in California on a trip, and she offered to do it for free. And I could have done it with AI, but she did it, watched it through, was like, this is amazing. I have to do this for you. I want to translate it, get it to the Spanish speakers of the world. So shout out to Dr. Anna.
Please tell her I really appreciate that, because I just noticed that. So I'm going to get it circulating. A lot of people don't realize here in Miami, about 80% of the population only speaks Spanish.
Wow.
So I'm going to start to circulate this Spanish version on Spanish news and stuff like that. So that way it will start to get some views. But this is Project Whistleblower Volume 1 and 2 combined. So you could watch that, or you can go back and watch it on Justin's channel from the very beginning. So Justin, one other thing, people ask, about, that we haven't really gone over is James O'Keefe himself, and what his role is, or what you believe his role is in really covering up the story, because the story was covered up by Project Veritas and James O'Keefe. Can you start to touch a little bit on that?
So my Pfizer whistleblower story was never told due to recording consent law being broken and like crossing state lines when doing the microscope expose with Dr. Carrie Madej. But the issue with all of that is they were aiding and abetting in all of that. They participated in it, actively helped me, and were actively participating in helping me obtain information. So to me, they're just as guilty as me in a court of law. So, that's why that they're most likely not going to want to touch this, because so many people will get deposed, and it would get really messy. But that's the thing.
What is the law that they told you? Okay, first of all, Project Veritas has legal counsel that they were working with prior. So they knew that they had sent you the video. I mean, the recording devices.
They knew everything I was doing.
Right.
Yes, but also Project Veritas, James O'Keefe is no longer associated with Project Veritas.
But he was there during my whistleblower time.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So during the whistleblower time, so what I find very interesting is they did have all of this legal counsel. They knew exactly where Pfizer is located. They knew where these different things are located, and they are the experts. The legal counsel is there to be the experts, so that you don't have things like this happen.
Right. And why would they string me along for 3 months, not tell me about recording consent ever until the very end? And it's like, oh yeah, we're not going to tell your story. It's going away in vain.
Wow.
Even though it can help millions of people. Absolutely.
Dang, Justin.
It's crazy. So, and I was offered a job opportunity instead of being a whistleblower, which was a breach of the contributor agreement contract that we signed. So, did you guys want to go over the Bohemian Grove stuff real quick?
Yeah. Want to do that.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, because basically,
is it 10 million? Is it 20 million? Is it 100 million? What is your price? Because if your price is not your life, then you are for sale. If your price is not your life, then you are for sale. So, if you're going to be a truth teller, your price has to be your life. I can't surround myself with people whose price is not their life, because the enemy, whatever the enemy is, whether it be physical, legal, spiritual, will attack the vulnerability of the person who can be compromised. So you get real spiritual real fast if you're going to do this type of work.
And then let me share my screen real quick. Okay, you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Not just go 10 days dead silent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The very time James was going off grid was the exact week of the encampment at the Grove.
Bohemian Grove.
Knowing that James was alleged to be headed to California for the secret gathering at the Grove, prior to his trip, I set out to corroborate my story completely as best as I could. On August 1st, I obtained a photo of James O'Keefe's tent slip next to his book, American Muckraker, when I was at his house in Northvale, New Jersey. Carrot Top hooked me up by throwing the tent slip directly in my direction while I was working, and I proceeded to take a picture of it when I went to go to the bathroom. Finally, on August 23rd, James O'Keefe came clean to me and called me saying,
I went to this Bohemian club and it's upset people. So I just wanted to hear from you and kind of take your temperature and see how you're feeling, see how you're doing, like what's going through your mind.
James, how did you even get invited there? And like, it's the most powerful secret society in the world.
I feel like my own team is like eliciting me and challenging me and questioning me. And I think I was just a guest. I didn't see anything wrong there. Some of our people that I've known for many years were there. If I saw something, I wouldn't tell you, but I think there's a lot of conspiracy theories and stuff, and I didn't see anything that crossed the line or anything like that. Some strange things, but nothing like what's portrayed by like Alex Jones or anyone else, as far as I can see. And there's a lot of people that support us that are involved in that. Some people on this team are really challenging me in a fundamental way, and it's really more than I can take right now. So I just need to know, like, are you with me? Are you and just tell me the truth, like.
Truthfully, James, I can't say yes to that because of everything that we've been through from Pfizer whistleblower to now.
I can't feel like my own team is like investigating me. You have to trust me. It sounds like you're not.
I called James back that.
Okay.
Wow.
So, and the second part of the conversation is I called him back after that. I know we're running short on time, but the second phone call was even more powerful, because he already had admitted the Bohemian Grove thing. He essentially wanted me to work with his assistant on my resignation. And I said, no, I'm calling you back. I want to talk to you more. And I called him for another 20 minutes and I hammered James on spiritual law, God's law, Pfizer, whole thing. I said, people died. Millions of people have died from this vaccine. How are you out here saying that you are Be Brave, do some Mr. Be Brave, do something, king of investigative journalism? And I called myself the Willy Wonka golden ticket of whistleblowers. I gave him the biggest story he could have ever asked for from my perspective, and from a lot of people's perspective, they agree. The 99%, even more than that. I haven't really spoken to anyone that's like, oh yeah, that, it would not have, been a good thing to do, so it's truly crazy. And for him going to Bohemian Grove, and then we didn't even touch on this, but the last thing I'll say is there was an FBI raid that happened after the microscope expose that we did, and it went viral with Carrie Madej and Stu Peters. And then boom, week and a half later, there was an FBI raid. So that is potentially part of this much larger conspiracy with James being connected to the Bohemian Club as well, with Speaker McCarthy, Clarence Thomas, and Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson are also apparently there this year too. So
wow.
We'll end it on that.
Well, and then also one other really important thing, because, one of the one of the first things that I really got involved with investigating was the John Walsh taking his grandkids away from his daughter's case, Megan Walsh's case. And so when you were at Project Veritas, or actually, no, you were at OMG, we actually tried to hand James Megan Walsh's case, and he didn't have to say everything regarding her case. He could have, I mean, I'm sure he could have picked a soundbite out that he wanted to use, but he absolutely refused to even touch stories like that. So can you tell the audience what you were told and by whom regarding the Megan Walsh case?
Well, so this story with Megan was not brought to James. It was filtered out through his other journalist colleagues who were above me, essentially. Like, they were producer level journalists who helped filter out stories. Like, they filtered out Kim Witczak's story. They helped filter out Megan's story when I brought it to them. Jasper's his code name. He was like, yeah, I don't want to touch this, essentially, or we don't want to touch this. And I was like, okay, I already spoke with them and I think it's something, you know? So, you know, that's what happened. Kim's story, same thing. And then in Project Whistleblower, there's also another independent journalist, Raymond Bouchard, who I'm very friendly with. He's a human rights activist, and he wanted to bring attention to child endangerment and potential child trafficking and human trafficking that goes on Twitter. Essentially, when you change the search settings on Twitter, you have like an open search form where you can just put in really any hashtag you want, and it starts popping out. It's mostly pornography, but tied in is legit like kids, you know, like he's come across 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old looking young people. And so that's where the child endangerment comes in. And my issue is there was straight up evidence. Like, Raymond sat down with James for 40 minutes, showed all this to him on his laptop, and he would, you know, he takes other stories like the Pfizer directed evolution story where you hear it straight from the guy just saying it, trying to impress a guy on a date and saying, oh, this is the biggest story ever.
Right,
You know,
right,
so
exactly.
it's all about sensationalism, really, when it comes down to it. And
Justin, I did over 30 shows on John Walsh, and I also sent those PowerPoints to Project Veritas.
I wonder why they didn't cover it.
Yeah, they're not going to cover. I mean, I think the principle here is, you know, I think if you want real truth, there's certain truthers you're going to need to follow individually. And I would say, you know, even unfollow some of these channels that are, you know, have fraudulent followers, number one, and number two, are not really producing real information, and make sure that you are following people like Justin. Make sure you're following Patriots Perspective, Awake Nation, the David Zublik channel, channels that don't censor out things and let people say what they want to say, because you're not going to get that on Project Veritas. You're not going to get it on O'Keefe Media Group, because there are censored topics. And the only thing I ever require is, number one, to either meet with people, or that you have a court case or a police report or something where I can validate your story. So, you know, I do demand that, because I don't want to be sued, because I know that they do come after you for your channels. They come after you for your trademarks, whatever you've got, they will come after you. So, you know, as a journalist, I just try to make sure that my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed, and you know, that we're headed in the right direction, and so that you're not having to filter out some of these, you know, things. And in the case of Megan, you know, I actually was in court with her, so I know exactly what happened. So nobody can lie to me and tell me. And I was actually one of the only ones as part of the legal team allowed in court with her, which was like a military style tribunal. So, you know, and, you know, if people are willing to go under polygraphs or anything like that, and have it, you know, then, you know, yes. But when it comes to, you know, just a basic notary or something like that, those are just basic things that we have to look out for. Is, you know, an affidavit is one thing, but a lawsuit or a case number or a police report number is another thing, you know. So that is something, Justin, that I'll get with you on. And because you've got a lot of great information and you've seen a lot that does need to be reported to the right authorities, so that you can even get your police report numbers and stuff like that, so that your conscience is also relieved for, duties for crimes against humanity, which you tried to expose very early on, and probably could have saved millions, if not zillions of lives, even according to your people at Pfizer.
And Justin, I just want to thank you for your integrity. And I want to tell people, if they want to help you, they can donate at justintegrity.net/donations to help facilitate more integrity in this world. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate you saying that, Penny. And I'm not here to grift anybody. I hope if anyone feels called to, send me $5, $10, however much. I'm not here to grift, like I'm saying. I've been through a lot in my young life. I've thrown away my entire, scientist career. And even, I could have stayed out of integrity and just continued working for James, kept everything stomached for the rest of my life, making a pretty penny, but not living in integrity. And so, not that I'm not going to make money ever again. It's just I'm doing this interview, all these interviews pretty much full time. Takes a lot out of me to do this and, try and focus on all these other things that I'm trying to get done, which is create this movement. But so, it's a reality is that I'm not doing well financially because of all these sacrifices that I've made. So I appreciate you saying that. And I also created a givesendgo.com/Project Whistleblower. And if you don't want to do Project Whistleblower, on the donations page on my website, you can just send PayPal or Cash App or Zelle as well. And so much appreciated. And there's also a prayer button on givesendgo.com, and I'm reading all those as well. So if you can't give, I totally understand. The economy is, what. And so,
well, share and also share the documentaries. This is what I say to people too. Here's the deal. The least anybody that's listening to this can do is share this broadcast, share the documentaries that Justin's created, because it costs a lot of time and a lot of money to actually produce those documentaries. Like it's I cannot tell you the amount of editing and things and time. It has to be like a labor of you're trying to get things out, because I imagine you had a lot more information than you included, and you have to go through hours and hours and hours of footage to find something that is of public interest. So, I highly recommend, listen, if you're paying money to a church that's probably lying to you, consider rerouting your gift, that God tells us to give to people. A tithe is more than about giving to a church. A tithe is about giving, a tenth of your income to people who are in need in some way, whether it be the homeless lady on the street. But hey, find out why she's homeless. Make sure she's not on drugs. Okay. But find people that are going to tell the truth, that are going to create great content for us, because we are the new news. And this is basically, Justin's calling. So I thank you very much, Justin. Any other final thoughts of what you would like to make sure the public does?
I just stay tuned for, more interviews. And once I get the ball rolling on, my mission at justintegrity.net, and just stay tuned. I think we covered pretty much all of what I wanted to chat about. So thank you so much for your due diligence, seeing the documentary, because some people want to interview me and not watch the documentary. And I'm just like, well, you don't have all the full blown context. So it's just, it's an aspect that I appreciate if people watch it and then want to talk to me. So thanks again, Christy. Thank you, Penny, for your due diligence. I appreciate you both for having me on today.
Thank you, Justin. God bless you.
God bless you guys.